What's up, y'all? And today we're just gonna do a quick little video that's kind of an extension of the last video I made and what's going on in the Yu-Gi-Oh community right now. So people are talking about what Anthony Shu has brought up, which is mid-range being a problem in Yu-Gi-Oh. Now, before I even go any further with that, let's just say, or let's just state one thing. Let's just make one thing clear that the main problem with the Yu-Gi-Oh, at least player base, with the Yu-Gi-Oh player base, the main problem is that we as the player in Yu-Gi-Oh love to play, right? We all love to play our decks, but we hate the other player, right? Like we love to play our stuff, but we hate when the other player breaks our board or stops us from playing our stuff. And that's just that, right? Like if we could all just be honest with ourselves about that, like be honest with yourself. Like that is the biggest problem in the player base. The second problem in the player base is that we love to see new stuff. We love to see it. And then we love to see when people mix it up. But then after a while, we hate to see it. Like, okay, we're tired of seeing this. And I hate that being the reason to for a deck to get hit on the ban list, if anything. Now, obviously, if the deck is a problem, then yes, it should get hit. But it shouldn't get hit because people are tired of seeing it. Like that's why I'm glad Fiendsmith is still around because people are like, man, I'm tired of seeing Fiendsmith, man. But it's like, and so like as players, like we honestly really have to grow up and stop acting like this when it comes to like cards. That's number one and two that I stated. Now moving on to like mid-range decks being a problem. If you take what I just said previously, that's kind of why mid-range decks are a problem. But half to blame is the player base and the other half is Konami. Because Konami is moving in a direction where they are making it known that they're making a lot of decks mid range. Or they're printing these archetypes that can be played with other archetypes because they have little to no restrictions. Now, Anthony Shu pointed out like Albaz. And like I hate when people talk shit about Branded because Branded is also one of those decks that people are like, "Oh my god, I'm tired of seeing it," but it's it's a great and fair deck. It doesn't win all the time, but when you see it, it will give you a run for your money, right? And that's all I got to say about that. Is that it does give you a run for your money, especially with Fallen and the Virtuous being printed, and then like the Synchros being printed, and then the new Fusion. Like the new support that it's got has made it stronger and has kept it up to date. The same with Sky Striker. I would say Sky Striker is a very great combo deck that relies on spells. And the spells only do like certain things that are specific to the deck and don't really do too much in terms of like, you know what I mean? But anyway, like those decks are fair because they have their own in deck negates. Now, when it becomes unfair is when other decks and archetypes use those for their own evil deeds. Like the main deck that comes up because Joshua Schmidt and MBT Yu-Gi-Oh talked about this. MBT brought up this. I don't remember what the acronym is. Hutar, Mutar. I don't remember because it's dang, what is it? Adventure, Rolad, Azamina, Mitsurugi, and Hand. So Mahar, some acronym that you can put all of these together because there's no restrictions on their archetypes. or there's no restrictions that stop them from playing with each other. And Konami just has to stop doing that because this mid-range problem goes into, excuse me, my last video's topic of discussion, where these decks become the problem when they get into that realm of negates and um what is it and floodgates. That is when mid-range becomes a problem. Like, I don't care if mid-range or combo decks just do whatever they do and then they set up this board that's fun and I have to figure out how to play through it and break it. But when your resources are eaten away because you're trying to stop your opponent from going too far, but it doesn't matter because you may have stopped the adventure part of the engine, but there's still four other acronyms that you have to worry about. And it's like we're at the point now where, and again, like, what is it? Cool Tune. I invested in Cool Tune, and then I could see the writing on the wall. People were going to complain about Cool Tune because of their ability to play all these hand traps that are tuners, strangely enough, and that they could use those tuners, those hand trap tuners, in tandem with themselves to go into their very own synchros that require multiple tuners. And I would say that's another problem that Konami keeps facing is that they keep changing their own summoning mechanics to make the game more fun, but then that's causing more issues in itself. So these mid-range decks wouldn't be that much of a problem if Konami didn't keep changing how certain summoning mechanics work. Like, Chaos Angel is easy to summon because you can just treat a light or a dark monster as the tuner for its summon. And if it was summoned with a lighter, like, you see what I mean? And Cool Tune, like, synchros are meant to be used with a tuner and one or more non-tuners, and that's just like the generic rule across the board. Like, obviously there's specific caveats, like Naturia Beast needs Earth tuner. You know what I mean? Like, but it's still a tuner plus one or more non-tuners in most cases. But then you have Konami going back on their own summoning mechanics and changing them for the better, or changing them and then causing these issues that arise because mid-range decks can exploit this. For example, like the Chaos Angel thing. You could just go into Chaos Angel if you got a light and a dark. And one of them doesn't even have to be a tuner. It's just a light and a dark. Like, wow. Or you have what, the Azamina spell fusion? Because before, fusions required two or more monsters and a polymerization. Now you have the Azamina spell that says you can send any sinful spoils cards to the graveyard, and then for every level rounded down, or every four levels rounded down, you can send that mini to summon the monster, and it's treated as a fusion summon. Like, what? So you use a spell to fuse spells and traps into your monster, but they can also still be fusion summoned into what? And that's the problem. That's why these turns last as long as they do with these mid-range decks because they're getting into negates, they're going into floodgates. There's very little restriction, and they're exploiting Konami going back on their own summoning mechanics because they're trying to make them more accessible, but they're ruining their own summoning mechanic. Like Chaos Angel's fine. It's not the worst, but it's fine. But when you get into Cool Tune, it's like, okay, now you're synchroing with tuners and only tuners. That's never been a thing before Cool Tunes. Because even when you think about RDA, they required multiple tuners and then the non-tuner card that may have been a Dark Dragon or RDA, you know? But this one just says a tuner on the field and a tuner in hand. So not only is it just not no longer a tuner and non-tuner, it's a tuner on the field and a tuner in hand. That you can do this. Like you don't have to do, but you can do this shit. Like it's crazy. So I see Konami trying their best to kind of go back and increase the power level of these certain like summoning mechanics, but they also gotta like backtrack again like, oh, this is too strong, this is too much, this is too powerful. But it's like when you create a whole new mechanic of summoning, then you're just creating all these issues that wouldn't have been the case if you like play tested this a little better. Because now you have Gaze of Tamias like now you don't even need that anymore because you could just summon because what was it? Thunder Dragon Colossus was the first offender. If you just tribute a Thunder monster that active or during the turn you activated a Thunder monster effect in hand, you could just summon this, and now your opponent can't add cards to their hand anymore. And it's like what? Then Mask Change was the second offender where you just tribute a hero and then you summon Dark Law. And now any card sent to your opponent's field or graveyard is banished. And if they add a card, you could just rip a random card out of their hand. It's like what? It's like it's okay when it's one card and it's restricted to an archetype, like Branded, Sky Striker, but they're not restricted, and that's when people take them and implement them in other with other engines, and then you get this mid-range effect. And that's pretty much my ranting video. I don't know if you guys really understood what I'm trying to get at, but I don't want the video to be too long. We're pretty much, we as the player have to do better about how we feel about other players playing their cards. But sometimes our feelings are valid because Konami is doing a lot of. We created the summoning mechanic, but to keep up with the pace of the game, we're going to change how the summoning mechanic works. And we're also going to not create as harsh of restrictions on some of the archetypes that we have created so that everyone can play everything together, which can make for fun gameplay, but also gets into what I was talking about in my last video where they end off on mini negates or floodgates on their board, and then you can't really play anything because the opponent has exhausted their resources or they don't have the resources to break your board. So thank you guys for watching. Peace.